Good morning, everybody. I don't know if you can see where we are today. We are at the Advent Church in Spartanburg. Not only is it the oldest church in Spartanburg, it has the oldest graveyard in Spartanburg. And we are going to walk around and look at some of the graves. This is just a preliminary video to kind of get you some sights and visuals. We're going to come back and do an in-depth history on this church because it's an amazing place. The church itself is amazing. The cemetery, graveyard, also amazing. Just lots and lots of history here. I mean, I don't know if I can even get it all in, but look at this place. See what I mean? There's a sign right here by the door that says the National Register of Historic Places, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Department of Archives and History, the Episcopal Church of the Advent. I mean, to just touch it, the doors, just kind of gives you that special feeling. And I know some of my lesser fans will have something to say about that, but I don't care. They're just jealous. They don't have the kind of stuff that we have here. Here's a sign. It's a two-sided sign, and it says the Church of the Advent dates from the 1840s, when the Episcopal services were held in Glen Springs, Limestone Springs, and Spartanburg. In 1848, the congregation was admitted into the Diocese of South Carolina. The Reverend L. Clements Johnson served as the first rector. The Gothic-style granite church was designed by the second rector, the Reverend John DeWitt McCullough, and consecrated to the glory of God in 1864. And on the other side of this sign, it says the church was enlarged in 1897 with transepts and a chancel designed by noted church architect Silas McBee. He also designed Pendleton Hall, which was completed in 1913. The Cleveland Memorial Bell Tower was added in 1915. In 1927, the Scout Hut was erected for Boy Scout Troop Number 1, founded in 1914 as the first troop in South Carolina. The church was listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 2000. So, this sign lists the Cleveland Memorial Bell Tower as being added in 1915. And while that is absolutely the case, and I don't want to discount any history, it's not really a bell tower. It's a carillon, or carry-on, or however other people pronounce it. It has 11 bells, and those bells were cast in New York in the 1800s, and they are played every Sunday morning after Mass by hand in the tower. The old style. You play it with your knuckles, ring the bells, and they actually play a tune here. So it's pretty neat. But I'm gonna turn the camera around. We're gonna look at some of these historic graves and talk about them. So without further ado, let's get on with it. This is T. Sumter Means, a medical doctor born April the 1st, 1833.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
And you will notice there is a Celtic cross dated 1861 to 1865, which means he was in the Confederate States Army. It says he was captain in the 1st Florida Infantry Confederate States Army during the first 2 years of the Confederate War. He was wounded at Shiloh and taken prisoner. In 1863, he became a full surgeon in the Confederate Army, remained in service while the surrender of many, after the surrender of Miami, and the warden of the Church of the Advent, and some other stuff that I absolutely cannot read, and I'm not going to try. This is in memory of Helen Faye Sue, eldest daughter of Mr. Stevens, wife of Dr. L.C. Kennedy, born October 29th, 1822. Here is another one. This would be her husband, Dr. L.C. Kennedy, born June 17th, 1860, died April 14th, 1880. And he was also a member of the Confederate States Army, has his Celtic cross here. We have I have no clue. It says brother, J-A-G. Here we have one that says mother. No names that I can tell at this time. Let's look on the back. Nope. No names. Here is another Confederate States Army war hero. I'm going to say it's W.M. Geddes, born in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, November the 9th, 1844, died in Spartanburg, South Carolina, September 17th, 1868. This big stone here has 2 women's names on it, and they are Geddes as well. Here's the infant son, well, infants, not son, of Mr. and Mrs. Geddes. Unmarked grave. Newton Starr, son of Mr. and Mrs. G.S. Hutchins, March 5th, 1903, died August 7th, 1907. Here we have Edward Mosley Gwathmey, October 13th, 1891 to June 7th, 1956. He was president of Converse College from 1933 to 1955. His wife Mildred is also buried here, born 1902, died 1956. Mrs. Moultrie here. eternal flame marker in memory of James Hall, a native of Scotland, born October 4th, 1846, died March 4th, 1872. So here's two graves in one spot. Daisy Fleming, born 1872, died 1873. So she is a infant. It says asleep in Jesus. And here's another one, born September 21st, 1850, died July. No, that can't be September. April 21st, 1850, died July 26th, 1850. So it's another child's grave. A lot of old graves not legible anymore. Here's the Lindsays. She was born in Hillsborough, North Carolina, 1861. He was born in Charleston, South Carolina, 1858. I'm going to assume this is their daughter, Ella Lindsay, wife of John Ferguson, born in the 1900s, and her husband next door, John Ferguson. So here's James Geddes and Hattie Geddes again. And we have a cradle grave here of an infant. No name. You know, a lot of these graves in this particular graveyard, to be as old as they are, they're pretty well preserved, but even time takes its toll on the most well-kept headstones. So here's us, another veteran of the Confederate States Army, George Hamilton, Lieutenant Colonel, Confederate States Army Volunteers, born November 26, 1814, died May 15, 1820. An 1876 grave, aged 74 years. Here is the Twitty family, Lafayette Twitty, born April 13th, 1826, died October 21st, 1885. He was a Confederate States Army member. He was born in Rutherfordton, North Carolina. That's up the road near where I come from. So this place is just really unique. Lots of war history here. Lots of old graves, lots of history in general, but lots of war history. Lots of old graves, the stuff that I really enjoy digging into. Being former military myself, I enjoy the veteran graves more than any, I guess. And there's a lot of, especially on this side of the church. Let me step over here and I'll spin you around and we'll take it in. We got a veteran here and I can't even read the name on the headstone. But I'm going to assume he was a Moor because his family here. If you'll look over here, see all those Celtic crosses? Everywhere there's a cross, there's a veteran laying there. Right here is a veteran from World War I, William Irwin. So, here is some more Irwins, veterans, Confederate States Army. I just love these old style. I'm not for certain that these are called cradle graves because they're for an adult, but they're in the style of a cradle grave. And I hope somebody in the comments will correct me and let me know exactly what those are. So if you do know, leave it in the comments because I'd like to know. I don't want to come off as knowing everything because I certainly don't. But this is just so interesting. How often do you get the opportunity to walk among this kind of history? I mean, not very often. And I try to be respectful when I'm walking around in here. And these are tabletop graves. There's quite a few of those in this graveyard as well. Veteran Robert Davidson Calbraith, born in York, South Carolina, November the 13th, 1848. So, look at all these tabletops. And these are newer ones. 1987, 1962, 1986. Another cradle grave for an infant. Ladson Mills, born in Rutherfordton, North Carolina in 1851. So this Wilson plot here, if I'm not mistaken, Luli, no, that is not her name. Hattie Wilson was the first person to be buried in this graveyard. And she was buried here before the construction of this church was complete, which would have been 1838, 1839, somewhere thereabouts. I have not laid hands on the history book as of yet, but I do intend to get it at some point. We have some more infant graves, cradle grave, times back in the 1800s. Another Confederate States veteran, and another one over there. Back in the 1800s, times were hard. People didn't live like we live today. They died in their 30s and 40s, and if they made it past 30s or 40s, they were considered lucky. So, yeah, the graves just keep coming. While we're back here, this wall along here is the oldest structure on the property. It was built first, so it predates 1840s. The building on the other side of that wall is the original Scout Troop number 1 in Spartanburg County, built, what did we say, 1915? Well, that is the original one. So, got some kids' graves up in the corner. And this is poured in concrete, but there's an open spot in the upper corner there that is not poured. And I'm sure at some point it was left open for a family member. Look at these old doors on the back of this church. This thing is just, it's amazing. Cradle grave. Markings are gone. Another cradle grave. Markings are gone. This one here, I'm not sure what this is. I'm certain it's a grave. I just don't know what it's called, I guess. But it's still unique. So, and this here I find extremely unique as well. These are Confederate soldiers buried under the church. Now, why do you think that was? were the early casualties, and the people were afraid that the Union Army would come in and desecrate the graves. I don't know. But there it is. I mean, don't really know. This is such a peaceful place. Let me see if I can get this. Can y'all see that up through there? Everything about this place is just totally unique. And another fact, it's in downtown, literally. That's Main Street right there where those cars are going by. And on the back side of it is a bed and breakfast, the oldest bed and breakfast on the books in the entire state of South Carolina, if not the East Coast. I mean, and this church, this is the original building from the mid 1840s. You know, they keep it well maintained, but it is almost 200 years old. The bell tower, or carry-on, Carillon, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but y'all know what I'm talking about. At least I hope you do. Here we have a few more Confederate veterans. This is John D. Witt McCullough, the first rector of this church. And as you can see, he was a Confederate States Army. Benjamin, here lies the body of Benjamin Hart, son of J.D. McCullough. And he was born in 1841. And I can't read the date of death, but it appears he was an infant. We have more McCulloughs here, and spouses. We have another veteran here, Bryce, John Edward Bryce. And I'm sure this is his wife, Susan. I'm sure that's probably their children as well. I can't read that one. That's what you call laying hands on history. Here's the Irwins. Henry Holmes, Mary Holmes. And up here we have the Cleveland family. If you'll remember from earlier, we mentioned the Clevelands. The Clevelands are the one that donated that wonderful bell tower. Confederate States Army right there. And if you've ever been in a cemetery or a graveyard and seen a headstone like that with the abbreviation JNO dot B dot Cleveland, and you wondered what it stood for, JNO is the abbreviation from olden days for Jonathan. So that's what it's about. So let me know what you thought of this tour. Is it too long? Is it too much? Would you like for me to come back? Because I certainly want to delve into the history of this church. I want to know more about the people that's buried here. I want to know more about the building. I want to film inside it. And I want to catch that bell tower ringing and share it with y'all. So let me know what you think. Leave me some comments. If you enjoy what I do, consider subscribing and follow along. And with that, we'll get on to some aerial shots, and that'll be the end of it. Thank you for hanging with me.